Welcome back to Indies Play the Game. Last week we played Manic Miner, and this week we're playing JetPac. JetPac is a video game from 1983. It's made by Ultimate Play the Game. The programmer was Chris Stamper, and the artist was Tim Stamper. And I'm assuming they are brothers. Yes, they're both brothers. Anyway, let's play the game. Oh yeah. No, you don't want to do. You don't want to do.
I don't want to do that, do I?
You don't want to do list. You want to do load. It's load. Load is the command.
You know, I just realised I haven't rewound the tape. I just got to rewind it. There we go. Let's be all the way back to the start.
So, you know, already. Yep, we're going. I like a little tune there.
I know, right? I like that. And I like the way they timed it between the sort of loading sound from the tape.
So this is already a little bit different to Manic Miner.
Yeah, I mean...
I like how it says JetPac is loading in text, and then it's got the screen, and that says JetPac is loading, just in case.
Yeah, you get the double loading.
You might not know. You were like, is this working?
So this is quite cool, because this...
Black and white.
Very similar to the box cover art. Looks funky. Great pixel art there.
Yeah, here comes the colour.
Look at that. Cool. The Ultimate Play the game logo looks awesome on that one.
Yeah. It reminds me of something. I can't quite place it. Can't put my finger on it.
The little laser beam coming out of the character there, rainbow colours, right?
That's like ZX Spectrum colours, isn't it?
Yeah, now the question is, in game, is it in rainbow colours coming out, the lasers? I don't think it is.
I'm not sure.
I thought it was like a green or something. But...
On the front of the box, it's like just an orange laser.
Yeah. Now, the boost coming out the back here looks really awesome, I think. And the logo for the Ultimate Play the Game. And what a lot of people might not realise if they never had a Spectrum is each of these areas, the reason the colour's quite limited is because with Colour Clash, they could only actually do a square of 8x8 pixels and they could only have two colours within those. So,
and it was more specific than that, wasn't it? Because, so if you look at, say, the letter J, you could only have a background colour and a foreground colour. And so
exactly what I was going to say, yeah. So if you've got your background colour as black, you can only have one colour on top of it.
Yeah.
And where you can kind of notice this quite well is if you look at the green area in that and where the lasers were coming out, you could see the clash below it. Okay.
Well, I'm sure there'll be more examples of clash, won't there?
Oh, I forgot this one carries on. It's got a little bit extra on the tape, so I'm just going to stop that there. You want to switch over to your stream, Taz, and do you want to go first?
Yeah, why not? What's the keys again? It's
Q, A,
and QA?
Yeah, BM for bowel movement, and then Q and A.
I think it's BN, isn't it? BN for naughty.
BN, oh yeah, B...
Because I mean, man, if I was using the M there, I would have had bowel movement on that first shot.
Bit of a stretch.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna go. Okay. Oh, what's happened there? Oh. Oh dear. We didn't see any of that. Okay, that's all right. I'll cut that.
Sometimes these things happen, you know.
Yeah, right. You know.
Did you crash?
I don't know what happened. I think I've got a feeling. Hang on. I've got a feeling. What is it? Q?
Q's to fly, yeah.
How do you actually pick up the...
You just fly into them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I believe on the next one you've got to press a pickup key in the sequel, which makes it a lot trickier.
Oh, actually, like, hang on, the old when you fly up, it actually shoots at the same time.
I know it's an awesome mechanic for making it extremely simple to play.
So it's like three keys, literally, isn't it? Oh,
well,
oh!
I kind of look at it as it's almost like A flies down. You know, you press A to fly down because then you get the lasers coming out as you're flying down as well.
Okay, so you got to do oh yeah, look, you got to do multiple fuels. So it's a good example of colour clash, isn't it? It's like when you look at the little character there, they can't do purple and white at the same time.
Yeah, I actually really like the way the character and the fuel kind of fight each other for colour. I mean, it's kind of like an accidental thing, but because I could have just made it when you collected it, the fuel turned white, and it would have sort of solved the issue.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
But yeah, they went for the craziness of no, we're going to make it so your character kind of wigs out.
I mean, the thing is, it's like you don't have any choice, do you? Because you're kind of like you're going to hit.
Oh, you have to get in your ship now.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to get that diamond first. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know, because goodies. Oh,
that was brutal.
Laters. Look at me go! Look at me go!
You know, for a second, I thought that diamond was a space helmet.
Oh right, land on the next level. You know what? Oh, bollock. Hang on.
I love it.
Well, you have a go, because I need to sort out my sound.
Okay.
Hang on.
Here we go. Yeah, all ready for this? Because this is...
Oh, hang on. You're not streaming.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, is my stream wigged out? Ah, this is the issue with streaming from the UK, I guess, all the way to Australia.
We ain't doing too bad, considering we're like 12,000 miles away, eh? There we go. There you go.
There we go. That should fix things up.
Oh, I'm just going to sort out my sound.
Oh, no, I caught the fuel then as it was coming in. Do you know, I think this might be my game. I don't actually know if I was any good at this back in the day.
Well, like, to be fair, you're doing way better than me at this than you did at Manic Miner to start with. Although you picked up on Manic Miner though.
Yeah, I started getting into the swing of it. I think there's like a little bit of, you know, you just got to get into the flow of like the spectrum timing.
I think it was like, you know, it was because I reset my game. Like it really threw me off. That did. Whatever happened there, kind of really threw me for a loopy. That did.
Yeah, I must say, Manic Miner was that took some getting into. That was all about the jump skills, whereas you know, like, so that there's a difference in games. This one's really arcadey. You're sort of really it's really all about timing. This one.
This is, I mean, this game is kind of like, this is definitely a little bit easier than Manic Miner, but it's kind of it's pretty clever. It's kind of like it's a bit like Defender, isn't it? Look out! Oh man!
My God, I colour clashed that dude then.
Yeah, I know. Right?
That's that hairy thing you said about the other week, where you colour clash a bad guy, and it's yeah. These guys are much harder than the first level guys.
They were really
These,
going for it.
yeah, this I'm not liking these ones bouncing around. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Defender, this, isn't it? But like in terms of the laser and stuff. But it's like obviously because it's Spectrum, like they couldn't do the scrolling and stuff, and so like they had to really kind of like try and do single screen movement to keep it all smooth.
Yeah, so that's an interesting. I'd never really thought about that. This is very much a Defender-inspired game, and I reckon you're right. It's
Inspired by Defender, but like it came out the way it was because like they did a little bit clever design to like make it a single screen Defender type, add some platforms in there to make it different. But it is quite clever, isn't it? But like so far, those platforms haven't moved.
no. So it's basically the same stage each time, I'm guessing, but the baddies change.
Yeah, I always thought with JetPac, you built different like spaceships every level, but I think once you've built your spaceship, that's it, isn't it?
You just got to get the fuel and it just different bad guys. Yeah, you know, I thought you had to rebuild the spaceship.
We must be thinking of there was another game inspired by this, weren't there? What you call it? Was it Automania?
I don't know.
Automania, where you had to build a car, maybe, or something.
I mean, the kind of what I would say is kind of like the game that is kind of like almost like took this same game and improved on it. It's probably Psst.
Yeah, which is basically Ultimate Play the game as well, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, yeah. I mean, these guys done some incredible games, really, in the Spectrum days, because they've kind of done one of my first ever favourite type games, which was Attic Attack. Loved that game. Ugh.
Yeah. Actually, like I've often said to people, like that Attic Attack is my favourite game of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting going back and playing that one. I mean, you know, the movements for the spaceship and that. I'm loving the weird little flicker you get on the spaceship, and then when it lands, you still get some like slight pixel flicker on it. Oh God, look, there it is. I'm getting attacked by the ships from Defender now.
So the reason you get that flicker is because, like, on these, you don't see it so much on modern games, but on these old computer games, like you'd have like a vertical blank, which is basically the same. You get V blanks on modern games, but on the Spectrum, in particular, that flicker is because I'm pretty sure it's because like the code's not quite executing quick enough in the, or is it because the code's not executing quick enough in a vertical blank, or is it because there's sprites every time sprites are drawn on the same row or something?
It's exactly what you said, because Spectrum didn't technically have sprites. So
it didn't have sprites, did it? So the more like time it took you to draw the vertical blank, the more flicker you'd get, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you got the flicker because technically the V blank could happen, and then the game hadn't drawn before what would now be referred to as a V-sync, where the V-sync is the network card, graphics card.
Yeah, so the equivalent nowadays is like tearing it. Oh my god, new ship!
Oh, that's the wrong key. I had my fingers on the wrong keys. I had it on Eminem. Oh god. Oh, I think I'm dead. Oh,
there you go.
Last life.
Yeah, so like the equivalent nowadays would. Oh my god.
God, that got hard. Oh my god. So there is different stages. What? Different ships.
Okay. We remember correctly then.
Yeah.
So like I guess the equivalent nowadays of like the only thing that's kind of close to that kind of flicker that you get is like tearing, isn't it? You get like if you throw on a game and turn off VSync, you get that tearing because it's like not matching up with your monitor. The only difference is when that happens on, say, a PC game, the game's running fast enough. It's running too fast, like in that case, and so it's just not syncing up. Whereas on the Spectrum, it wasn't running fast enough to meet the V-sync, if you like. But it's like, we used to call them vertical blanks, and the reason why a lot of Spectrum games did that is because the Spectrum wasn't really powerful enough to actually do a lot of these games and meet that vertical blank. And if you made it do the vertical blank, you'd basically half the frame rate, right?
Yeah, and so that's why
they flicker, because all of these games, they're trying to keep them really smooth, like.
Yeah, and if you look at games like Manic Miner, they didn't really suffer from that, because you've got such a small amount of moving kind of parts that the moving elements could essentially overwrite each other, and it weren't really an issue. It's where you had to copy what was previously there over the character and then redraw the character. It'd create like that element of flicker in between when you hadn't done it fast enough.
I wonder if Manic Miner ran at a lower frame rate than this.
No, I think
it's the same.
It just had less.
Just had less going
moving,
on.
Yeah, less fast moving sprites.
You're probably
for you to
right.
notice it.
Probably right.
But it's interesting, because we always used to refer to them as sprites, even though in these days they weren't technically.
Well, technically they're sprites in the sense that a sprite's just a graphic, innit, that you're drawing on the screen. But it's like, they were sprites, they weren't hardware sprites. It was software sprites, basically.
Yeah.
Because we never used to use hardware sprites, or did we on the Amstrad? I can't remember. Did the Amstrad?
I'm not sure.
No, I don't think we
the
did.
Amstrad had hard. I think Commodore was the first one.
Commodore did, and we didn't like program Commodore, so we always used to do software sprites, and so I'm not even sure how hardware sprites worked back in them days, but presumably you'd just fill, like, a hardware sprite would just be an allocated block of memory, and you'd just fill it with your graphic, basically, I suppose, and then that would just move around.
I remember reading about it in like a Commodore magazine, and you basically had you defined the dimensions, and then you defined where you wanted it to appear on the screen, and it would draw it after. It would draw each frame after within the after the V blank had happened, it would then draw the screen, and then it would do the V sync, and before the V sync happened, it would draw the hardware sprites. And they had a similar issue, obviously, with the with the sprites flickering when there were too many within a vertical line.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which is a weird limitation. You'd mainly see it on stuff like Space Invaders on the Commodore.
That's where I was getting confused, like when I was talking about it before, like on my second attempt at it, because that was basically the same issue that like Super Nintendo had, weren't it? It was like it could draw, I can't remember how many sprites, lots. It could draw a fair few, couldn't it? Because it had I think it had 8 hardware sprites, something like that. And there was a trick where you could draw, say, 32 sprites, but if more than 8 got in a row, you'd get that horrible kind of flickering.
Yeah.
So like a lot of shoot 'em ups, like the ones that had lots of sprites, you'd end up like R-Type, when you had the kind of circular kind of worms that came out of the things. They'd flicker like hell. Oh, jeez! I'll tell you.
Yeah, you'd get really bad splitting on those sprites. It's surprisingly difficult, this game. Once you get into the flow, it's not so bad.
Yeah,
but you get used to a certain type. I swear that fuel falling down then blew up one of those meteorites.
Oh, really?
Unless it was a stray laser. But you see what I mean? I was right. The lasers, they are pretty much.
They're coloured. Yeah.
They're not coloured like they are at the start. They're mainly purple, and then they do sometimes turn light blue. But I don't know what's causing that. Is it the height of your character, or?
Yeah, it looks like it looks like it's
It's got to be height based, right? Because it's going blue, purple, and white.
I don't know why. I don't know why the sound for my game is coming out of my speakers, but so I don't know I don't know whether my sound is going to come out on the stream, but I'll tell you one thing I do like on this game. I think the laser sound is awesome.
Oh yeah, it is cool.
It's really it's just the right amount. Oh, it's really good.
I actually like a lot about the audio on this game, even though it's not got music. Like the weird kind of like, even when you shoot the bad guys, the little sound. Do you not think it kind of is similar to the sound you got from games like what was it called? Galaxy Ranger, when you shot those things and your shots didn't count and they kind of made a little ping kind of sound. It's kind of similar to that sort of sound effect, where it's kind of like it's a simple sound, but it kind of like gives it quite a bit of solidity. Yeah, see, look, all your lasers here. Oh no, they did go blue then, but they're mainly purple for some reason, and then they on occasion go blue.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether. I'm just wondering whether. Oh look, if you get close to the edge, it does go through the screen.
Yeah, which is kind of a cool way of. It's kind of like a cool way of making the playfield feel a little bit larger.
I think I might have come up with a little cheat. Look, if you stand on this platform up here, you can you're pretty safe.
Yeah, you wait until you get to a later level, man. Those little aeroplanes, they were brutal.
Yeah, I'm just going to cheat while I can, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I might do the same thing.
Although this is not getting me. Oh.
It's not getting you in your ship.
No.
That says, what's that say? You won on the ship.
It says one. Oh, yeah, you won.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Ultimate one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be something like that. I'm just going to read the back of the box quickly while you're playing through and see whether it says anything. Let's have a look. So it says,
I'll play through again.
You run through again. This is quite a weird little story here. It says, the Acme Interstellar Transport Company is delivering spaceship kits to various planets in the solar system throughout the galaxy. And as chief test pilot, all you have to do is assemble the rockets, thrust onto your next destination. Oh, sorry, and thrust onto your next destination. That sounded a bit weird. But, with a big exclamation mark. As you don't often get the chance of a free trip across the galaxy, and space travel is, so expensive, now is your chance to get rich. You might just as well stop off on several planets on your journey, collect the odd sack of precious gems, elements of gold, and take them back with you. Sounds simple, doesn't it? I mean, Jesus Christ, that's shoehorned the story into this, haven't they? Another but. But before you go and make yourself the richest person in the whole universe, you must remember to refuel your ship. Every time you land on a planet with 6 fuel pods, any other goodies you collect are yours to keep. Upon landing, you will find yourself equipped with the very latest Hydrovac JetPac, which can automatically airlift almost any rocket stage, fuel pod, or valuables you care to land upon and release them over the rocket ship base, plus mega powerful quad photon laser phasers to blast any nasty mean little alien who might object to your visit. And do these aliens get upset when you collect all their valuables and sneak off without so much as a by your leave? It's such a weird. I mean, okay, so it's one of the things that gets me here. That's the full story, right? On the back of the box, and we had this game back in the day. I remember the box cover well, and I used to think it was cool. I never bothered reading the back covers.
No, I don't think I read the back cover on any games, which is strange because, once we got into the Nintendo stage, we'd get obsessed with the instruction booklets.
Yeah, we'd read everything in them, and I mean mainly because we had to take a bus ride all the way from Northampton or Leicester back home. I mean, those were the worst. When we were doing what's the PC Engine? I was trying to remember what the other name for the PC Engine was. What was the American name for the PC Engine? Was it TurboGrafx?
Yeah.
Yeah, so PC Engine or TurboGrafx if you're not based around here. I remember doing those games, and we had to come all the way back from Leicester. So it was the only thing you could do to sort of keep your excitement going was to literally sit there and look at your instruction manual all the way home, and have a good read of what was going on. And you just read everything, wouldn't you? Every control, everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Spectrum ones, because they were just available in Woolworths.
I wonder if it was because they were on tape, maybe, and because the Nintendo and the TurboGrafx ones, you had actual booklet, didn't you? It was like it's a bit more. It's like reading through a book.
I don't think any of the Spectrum ones, from what I remember, I don't remember any of them having a book list. They did generally come with a little sheet that came with them at the. Yeah, they've got like the controls on a little sheet and how to enable your joystick and some little bits, but it was just a single sheet, and I'm guessing it. I mean, to be fair, you're talking about much smaller games.
Yeah, and also the text on those things as well. It's like would have been. Oh man, I'm getting battered now. The text on the instructions on the Spectrum would have been pretty tiny compared to Spectrum.
Because it's just a tape. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just one like fold out, wasn't it? It's like whereas thingies had booklets and stuff, and so like they could have like pictures and a bit more to it.
Yeah, I do remember some of the larger Spectrum games. Do you remember there was a couple of games that came in a double tape case?
Yeah.
I can't think of any that it would have been.
Trying to think like which ones are double tapers.
Yeah, we'll probably know when we come around to playing them because we'll have to load them off a double tape probably.
I remember that maybe that game. Do you remember the game with the massive sprites? What was it? Dundarrock. That one was it?
Oh, there was one called something like that. Yeah,
that might have been a double taper.
Yeah. I mean, I think on the Amstrad, Platoon might have been double tape.
Yeah, and even maybe like Last Ninja 2, I think that might have been a double taper, maybe.
Like, do you remember? Because on Platoon you had like the 3D maze stage where it was kind of done. You had loads of different stages. Things like Combat School as well, maybe.
Oh, still going.
Yeah, you get a weird last light. Oh.
I'm going to swap you over.
I'm getting ready on the controls here. Okay, here we go.
I'll be back shortly.
Here we go. So according to the instructions, these little things that are dropping down, we're supposed to be collecting those for our... Oh, nearly flew into that thing there. For our little bounty. Oh my goodness. So you can fly left and right on this, and you can walk on the ground. But you only get to, as far as flying goes, you can only fly upwards. So you've got a key to fly upwards and a key to shoot your laser. And if you fly upwards, it automatically shoots your laser as well. So that kind of saves you a little bit of hassle. But to hover, you kind of keep tapping the fly button. You do have this weird situation where you can press one of the number keys and you can just hover left and right like this. But it's a bit weird. It kind of takes you out of the fluidity of doing the
controls. Aren't bad though, are they? They're kind of quite responsive.
No, I was just saying about that. If you press one of the number keys, you can actually hover on the spot and then fly left and right at the same time.
Oh, okay, can you?
Yeah, but I kind of prefer keep tapping the.
Yeah, that's
key.
what I've been doing, just tapping it.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a bit of an old school thing. I used to do it back in the day. Holding one of those number keys just seems like a weird thing to do. I almost feel like they put it in there as an afterthought of people are going to want to, complain that we've given them no way of doing this. I like the way my character as well. He teleports way out of the ship. Right? He doesn't actually. You'd think you'd spawn at the bottom of the ship, but you don't. You can't spawn right outside it.
Did Ultimate play the game? They did Night Law as well, didn't they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did because they did that game called Gun Something or Another that was before that as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did Night Lord, but I don't think they did Batman, did they?
No, I think Batman. I'll check, but like I think Batman got released under Ocean, maybe.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether it was someone like Ocean. Ooh, this stage is a little bit hairy. Funnily enough, my daughter makes these little things out of wool. Maybe not without the eyeballs. I'm going to look at them a little bit differently from now on.
I'm trying to think where I've seen that like little boggly like alien before.
Maybe these ones that are flying around.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of games that had almost that same thing.
Yeah, do you know, like...
you know what else they did? You know what else they did as well? Alienate.
Yeah, they did Alienate, yeah.
Saber Wolf.
Saber Wolf, and I'm looking forward to playing Saber Wolf, actually. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, Saber Wolf was good. And also, the other thing is as well, like, that I didn't mention in the beginning there, is Ultimate Play the Game eventually became Rare Software.
Yes, they did.
And so they actually did... hang on.
They did some big, like, didn't they do Killer Instinct?
They might have even... Did they do Rock and Roll Racing?
I'm not sure on Rock and Roll Racing. But I'm pretty sure they did Killer Instinct, that arcade beat 'em up.
Yeah, okay. Just having a look at some of their games. They did...
I'm loving your little platform, Cheek.
So yeah, it was the same two guys. They did RC Pro-Am.
RC Pro-Am was awesome.
Donkey Kong County, Killer Instinct.
Yeah, Donkey Kong County, yeah. Donkey Kong Country. Country.
Oh yeah, Country. My apologies. What else have we got here? Perfect Dark.
A lot of people look at Donkey Kong Country as one of the best platformers ever made, so...
Yeah, it was definitely... They did Battletoads as well.
Yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie. Oh, GoldenEye.
Oh, really?
GoldenEye's super famous. For that was... A lot of people sort of talk of that as being the first shooter that was any good.
Like first person one, yeah. It was wicked that you could play it split screen as well. You could play 4-player split screen against your friends, and it ran really nicely. It was really good to play.
Yeah, so these guys like are absolute legends.
Yeah, like people don't really realise that this sort of thing is where it all began, kind of thing. And I think was Alienate their first one?
No, I've got a feeling that... Hang on.
It wasn't.
No, I've got a feeling this was.
I don't think it was. Have a check.
Let me just have a look at the...
I mean, if it was, then that's pretty cool.
Hang on. You might be right, though. Let's have a look.
These little planes going at the edge of the screen when my fuel's falling down there as well is I'm not appreciating that. Do you know, I've just realised something on this that makes it a little bit easier. When you drop your fuel, if you don't go if you fly down and then drop it, it falls quicker.
Oh yeah.
Because you fall quicker. These flies sorts of things that...
Okay, yeah, this was their first game.
Oh, this was, okay.
On the spectrum, anyway. So it went like this. It went JetPac, Cookie, Pst, Trans Am, Lunar Jetman.
That makes sense with then.
Oh my god. And then Attic Attack, then Saber Wolf, then Underworld, Nightlaw, then Alienate, then Nightshade, then Gunfight, Pentagram, Cyberrun, Bubbler, and Martianoids. That was their last game. But this is pretty stunning, right? So, okay, JetPac, Cookie, Pst, Trans Am, Lunar Jetman, and Attic Attack were all made in 1983.
Wow.
So they did 6 games in 1983.
I mean, interestingly, this game feels. I mean, although it's a really quite a good game, it does feel like the kind of game you could turn around in quite a short amount of time.
Yeah, but still, I mean, like it's pretty. There's no bugs in it. There's no bugs in it or anything. You know, it's pretty.
Yeah.
All right, I'm jumping in. I'm going to jump.
Yeah, jump in. That's quite good. So I wonder how many spaceships there were in total. While you're jumping in, I'm gonna have a quick look and see whether or not we got some information on how many spaceships there were.
Yeah, I wonder if there's actually an end to this game. Oh, it's all gone. It's all gone bad already. It's definitely got that laser is definitely very Defender in it.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so apparently it just repeats when it gets to the end, so there isn't an ending as such. And it's interesting because you've got modern games like Vampire Survivors and stuff like that, which is essentially used in this same sort of formula where it's just a looping game of different kind of stuff that you just kind of play through, and it's the same principle all the way through. Ah, okay, so apparently there's 4 spaceships.
Okay. I don't even think I got to the second one.
What, the first time around when you was playing through?
No, I don't think I've got. Well, since we've been playing, I don't think I've got to the second spaceship. I know you did.
I don't think you have. No. And as you go through, each of the spaceships has got U on it and then a number. So the one that I just got to has got U2 on it, and then it's got U3 and U4. Right. And then presumably after a while, U2 turns into a band.
Yeah, presumably. And since I've never got there, the band hasn't formed yet, you know.
Yeah.
Gutted. Bono's going to be well angry. Sorry, this time, Bono, we got you.
Okay, so that the stage that I got to, so there's eight different types of enemies. You've got the flying saucers that I got to, and then after that it's crosses, and then there's some weird spaceships and some weird froggy-looking blobs after that.
I'm definitely
gaming
this, I'll tell you.
Well, these ones are referred to as the furballs, apparently.
Yeah, they look like furballs.
The flying saucer ones, they were kind of awkward because they fly at you and then they home in on you as they get close. So it very difficult. I found them.
Did you notice as well? It's like kind of funny, like, and it kind of demonstrates what we were talking about earlier. But like, you know, when there's no enemies here, like, look how fast I move, and then as there's more enemies, slowly slows down.
Yeah, I hadn't really noticed that, but yeah, when you're playing it. Yeah.
When you like the first time, like if you've got fuel in your hand and you die, all the enemies disappear and the fuel just bombs it down the screen.
Yeah, I could see it there. It was slowing down as it was heading towards it based on the number of enemies. It's so interesting.
So how many baddies have we got here? We got 1, 2, probably.
I think there's about maximum of 8. Is there?
Yeah, maybe.
So you got 3 there. 4.
That's 4.
And I wonder if the enemies allow for the things that fall in the screen, so you get more enemies as you collect stuff and move stuff. Like if you collect things, it leaves more room for enemies to come in.
Yeah, I wonder. You see, I wonder whether that's like part of the gameplay, right? If I didn't shoot anything, see how long I can last without shooting anything. That's scary.
So you got 5 enemies there.
Right, and nothing's falling down.
Now 6. One more's came.
Okay, so there's nothing falling down there at all. There's not. Oh, because I've got fuel. Okay. Well, I'm going to leg it in. Oh, look!
As soon as you moved, when something came in, it's like, yeah, you moved now. You can have something. But yeah, just 6 enemies. So maybe 6 is the maximum or something.
Could be.
Yeah, interesting. Very simple concept. You probably could have turned this game around in what, a couple of weeks, maybe. If assuming somebody else did the graphics, and you were just working on the coding.
Well, so there was two of them, weren't there? So like maybe the graphics. I reckon they probably spent about a month on their game, like these games, these early ones.
Yeah, I reckon.
Because they would have had to have done box art and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, true. If we were doing this together back in the day, and you were doing the graphics and I were doing the coding, I reckon it would have taken longer to do the graphics than it would have done to do the coding.
On this?
Yeah.
Maybe, but don't forget, all of this was written in like assembly, right? Machine code, so it would have took a while.
But I just don't see that there's that much in it as far as the coding goes. But I mean,
yeah, maybe.
But I think the graphics would have. I think there's quite a lot in the graphics side of things. So you got the 4 different ships, you got the animations for the character and the things moving around. Sure, I mean, obviously, I guess there's probably the side of things of getting all the animations and stuff to tie up and stuff like that within the game.
Because I mean, it sounds simple, but like scoreboards, you got to do that laser, you got to do the different types of enemies that do move slightly differently.
Yeah,
things like the fuel falling down, the ship connecting together, the.
I think you'd have been 4 days into it, you'd have had stage 1 done, and it would have been playing really good. Maybe you'd have had the laser working, looking pretty cool, and you'd have been like, yeah, really good. And then you'd have spent the rest of the time kind of getting all the menus working, the score, getting it to just feel sweet, and coming up with the different baddies. Someone obviously had to come up with the baddies.
I think I'd probably agree with that. Like, if you were talking about like, I don't think we would have been able to do it that quick back in the day, like because
these days. Like
if we were still doing machine code, maybe like you could crack out, like you could probably, like you say, if you had all the graphics and that, you could probably crack out the basics in like probably a week, and then you'd probably spend maybe like a couple of weeks refining it.
That said, I mean,
get rid of all the bugs and all that. You wouldn't have loads of bugs.
We're kind of looking at it from the point of view of, you're recreating it. And recreating
and that's the other thing.
2 weeks is realistic, but...
The other thing is, you got to think, right, 1983, there's nothing else like this on the spectrum, probably.
Mm. And the timing of everything right, there'd have been a lot of mess around.
You could make it, but, like, I mean, they released 6 games like this, so presumably, they might have been back-to-back, who knows? But, like, I'd imagine... They must have had some time off, right?
What a lot of people don't realise as well is, like, compared to today, you basically coded all this. You'd be sort of coding it, and then you'd execute it, like you'd execute your machine code. And essentially, if you messed it up, that's it. The game crashes, and you go, oh bugger, and then you like load back up your code.
I think one thing that's how we used to do it, but I think there's one thing that's slightly different is like, I reckon when they did this, they probably used like a proper assembly program, whereas we were using like a hexadecimal crappy little program that we wrote that just compiled hexadecimal values. And so for us, it's like we were just raw chucking it into memory. If it didn't work, it'd crash. But for these guys, they probably like could run the code and it throw an error rather than it blowing up,
Or they just had something that check for errors. But one of the things that you didn't definitely get is, compared to these days, you run your code, you get a little debugger, you can pause it, you can check the values.
Although I'm not sure actually. If you used something like, I wonder whether, one of those ball and assemblers or something, I wonder what they would have had on them. Probably wouldn't have had. They wouldn't have been like Visual Studio and stuff like that. Like,
no.
Look, bad to the Phyrone. Oh, he's playing Stellaris. There you go.
Jumping around all over the place, aren't he, on games?
He's really bored.
There's U2. Taz has got U2 out.
Yeah, we got the U2. Like I told you, Bono, man, keep him happy. You know. Oh, I want the jelly bean. I want the jelly bean. Oh, bloody
They seem to be guarding that jelly bean for their lives. You see what I mean about the fact that they zoom in on you?
Yeah,
they're cheeky.
Do you notice? Like, look, I think it's like the old Manic Miner, right? Like the initial first levels, you could hide up there and do slightly easy mode, but then these ones come after. These ones are coming after me.
Oh, that's unfortunate. You were just about to jump in there.
Didn't even get to fly the spaceship.
Well, on that note, let's. What do we think of JetPac? Should we bring back up the cover art?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, like with Manic Miner, I think you're right. We need to review it as though it is for the time. And my God, that's pretty impressive.
I think.
I
think I love the artwork. Like, one of the things that made Ultimate Play the game amazing was like the artwork. The artwork was always incredible, and
the graphics.
Yeah,
I mean, let's face it, right? By today's standards, the artwork of the box cover is actually kind of it's not that great, really. The box cover, the Ultimate Play the game logo is awesome, but
it was just for back then, weren't it? It just stood out as having. I mean, to be honest though, like the artwork on Manic Miner was awesome as well, right? So certain
in game,
well, just and the front cover as well. Like, it's just that I think like Ultimate Play the game definitely had like a particular style with their artwork. Like, all of it was that logo, weren't it? It was because they released so many games in such a short amount of time, and they always had that logo, and they always had and the style of the artwork was all very similar, very consistent.
I don't get why on this box cover, it makes it look like there's two players and the second player is threatening to shoot the first player.
Well, you can play it 2-player, but like just not at the same time. It's like arcade style.
Turns.
Kind of.
Yeah, taking turns per life. Yeah, which we would have done back in the day, probably. Although you'd have jumped out of the way and one of you would be pressing M and N as your controls and be walking backwards the way I did the first time round.
I mean, that sounds silly, right? That playing it 2-player and taking it in turns like Pac-Man. But the thing is, it's like you couldn't play Manic Miner 2-player, and so the fact that it even had a mechanic that you could take it in turns and like beat each other's score. And you have to wonder as well. Like we're on the other side of the world, so we can't really tell. But you have to wonder whether, when whoever had the highest score when you died, I wonder if it said like they were the winner, that kind of thing.
Yeah, interesting. We should have stuck it on 2-player and played it solo 2-player and seen what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought. It's a weird thing because I've
just noticed something as well. At the top of that box, it says for the 16 or 48K RAM Sinclair ZX Spectrum. What does that mean?
Oh wow!
What's a 16?
There was a 16K Spectrum back in the day.
Really?
It was short-lived because basically the 48K superseded it extremely quickly.
Yeah. So the original 16K came out in 1982.
And it was the successor to the 1K, which was called the ZX81, which came out in 1981, which was the successor to the Z80, which came out the year before that. So yeah, it's interesting because stuff kind of went from 1K to 16K to 48K, and then eventually to the 128K.
Well, I mean that's pretty impressive as it is, right? Because that means this game could run in less than 16K of RAM. That's ridiculous.
I mean, the thing is, these days, a sprite on a game would be more than that.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
I dread to think how big a sprite on a game would be, but yeah, 16K is nothing in today's computer terms.
But I even remember you know, I mean, there was a lot of games come out for the Spectrum, but like, you know, remember like when we were learning to program on the Spectrum, you know, it wasn't that like 48K was not a massive amount of memory because
you filled it up with
because
graphics
the screen was part of that, and you know there was stuff like, you know, the hardware and stuff was part of it as well, and so 16K. If there was a 16K version of the Spectrum,
what resolution did you say it was? 256 by
192,
which would make sense. 192 being slightly smaller than. So I would 192. Oh, that would make sense. So basically, you had 256 lines down, and it would have been memory-wise 256 across, with a bunch of that memory being used to define what the colours were of each of the squares going across.
Yeah,
which is why you only had
presumably you had two colours, right? So what's that, like 256 by 192 times 2, isn't it, pretty much?
I think that because the colours are defined for an 8 by 8 pixel square, so I think those colours were defined in the extra bits of memory you'd have had left over from the 192 across. But that comes out at 49 divided by
1024.
Well, 192 would be 192. Yeah, that's weird.
No, it wasn't how it worked, was it? Because like on the Spectrum, no, we're thinking. Say, look.
So it'd be 256 divided by 8 would be 32. You'd have that. So you'd have 32.
32
bytes,
times 192.
32
That's
bytes
more like
times by 192 divided by 1024. So you'd have 6K, but then into that would then be the extra data for the colours, which would be in an 8 by 8 square. So how much the colours would take? That would be 200.
No, because you only had
192.
No, because you could only have one colour per square, couldn't you? That's why you got colour clash. You had background colour and foreground colour. That's it.
Yeah, so the colours took less than a K. They took 768 bytes.
So you're looking at, in 16K then, you're looking at, you probably had, because there would probably be a couple of K for like hardware stuff and that, plus 6K for the, so you probably ended up with like let's say, maybe 6 or 7K to actually make the game in.
Yeah.
Which kind of explains like why, you know, like those early games were quite a bit more
light.
Light compared to some of the, you know, the more complex games that come out later. And presumably, I wonder if Manic Miner was the same, because like, you know, Manic Miner only had the 20 levels, and then Jet Set Willy came out, and that was probably like the open world like Manic Miner, because they had 48K.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's like the first Grand Theft Auto or something, you know. It's interesting though, because the loading screen on that game, JetPac, was incredible for loading screens of those times. Not many games had something quite as impressive as that. I was quite impressed by that.
Yeah, you know what's kind of cunning about that loading screen as well is that loading screen was free, because like that just loads into memory from the tape, so that don't cost you any memory. No,
it was the little extra effort they went to recolor it afterwards that I liked. They'd you know, obviously kind of like got to that point and been like, right, we're going to stop now and claim the game's loaded by putting all this color in. And that's why we then got that sudden bit where it paused and it started going again, because it had obviously issued a load command to load the rest of the game. I just think that's incredibly clever. And Ultimate done that those sort of clever loading screens with a lot of their games, which, you know, when you think about it from the point of view of they might have spent a month making that game from the point of view of code and all the little bits they got involved with, to then actually go to that extra effort to spend probably, you know, a whole day messing around getting that loading screen right, it kind of seems a bit extreme.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, yeah, but I guess the thing is, it's like, that was one of the things about Ultimate Play the game that was really good. Where they were one of the early kind of game companies on Spectrum that just pulled out all the stops, right? Because look at the loading screen on Manic Miner compared to JetPac, right?
Yeah.
I would say though that I do think that I'd say that JetPac is equally as good as Manic Miner in a different way, but I
was going to say that.
I must admit I think that for me Manic Miner's a bit more of a classic because I think the style of game that Manic Miner was perfectly suited. It was really perfectly suited for the platform and everything. Like, do you know what I mean?
See, I'm going to say
JetPac's cool though.
I'm going to say that we gave Manic Miner a 10.
They're all going to be 10, aren't they?
And I think JetPac is also a 10, right? And I'm not kind of, I know we could say we're giving them all a 10, but that's not the case here.
They
these
both
are
came
two
out in
of
the same year.
Best games at that point that were released, and they were very early. So we're going, no, these were incredible. And there were some real rubbish games at that time, real rubbish games. The difference is that this game, you can tell this was made by somebody who made it for love and then released it. And I do think so with Manic Miner as well. That's the difference between them and a lot of the other games. But where I think JetPac is better than Manic Miner is that I think for me, Manic Miner, I remember playing it back in the day, getting to a point, getting frustrated and kind of going, yeah, it's a good game, but it's kind of annoying. But JetPac, I remember playing that at the time and just constantly wanting to try and beat the high score. We'd just constantly take it in turns to see who could get the high score. And I think despite the fact that it had less going on from a content point of view than Manic Miner, I think it had more replay value.
I think, one thing I will say about JetPac compared to, say, like Manic Miner is, JetPac is more impressive in the sense that it is, like, literally like an arcade game.
And the movement on it is
really good.
There's so much going on,
when you think about it, on Manic Miner, you had, like, maybe 5... There might have been 5 bad guys, but all they did was move left and right at different speeds. Whereas these ones actually are sort of like following you around and stuff like that. And although, even in machine code, like, you think about it and you're like, well, that's not like that crazy a thing to do. Back then it was like only people in the arcades were doing that. And so, these guys would have like played arcade games and essentially like, were one of the first companies to bring an arcade type game to the home computer, right? And an original one, not only that, right? Like, they didn't do a clone of Space Invaders or whatever. They created JetPac, and it was like probably as good as most of the arcade games back then, but yet it was those guys' own unique game. And so, because you got to think, I mean, you're talking 1983. I don't know what arcade. Let's have a look. What arcade games? Arcades of
in the UK. Interestingly, it was priced at £5.50 originally in 1983, according to this. And it's funny because I don't really remember a lot of what the games cost back then, but £5.50 doesn't seem excessive for back then. I remember a lot of the games costing about £9.99, like particularly like Games Promotion and those sort of companies. So
look, like, check this out, right? So this is what you had in the arcades in 1983, right? And this is where it's pretty impressive because when you think about it, I mean, Spectrum compared to an arcade hardware, probably nowhere near as good, right? So you had Pac-Man in 1982.
Yeah.
You had Space Invaders was 1980. It's obviously like well ahead of its time. But in 1983, you had things like Centipede, Breakout was before Space Invaders. There you go. And you had things like Pitfall was 1982, Donkey Kong was 1982. And that was basically like that. That's roughly what you're talking about. The top games in the arcade.
You did have Defender though, and that was 1981. And what's interesting there is what you're saying about it.
Defender.
Seems Defender inspired. Defender
Defender was a very similar game though, weren't it? Because it's like there was no particular different levels or whatever. It was the same thing, just kept going, just kept getting harder, and so
one of the things that was I thought was interesting though with Defender was, and I don't know if you felt this, but back then as a game it was incredibly exciting. The way it moved was so fast, and so there was so much going on in the game that it felt like quite an adrenaline rush game to play. Defender, I think it was one of the best games around that time to.
You know what I remember the most about Defender, and it's like I can still vividly remember it was the sound effects, like the sound effects on that game.
The weird explosions when you died, they're just
it was all very noise and kind of synth wavy kind of sounding, weren't it? Like the lasers, everything sounded enormous on it, and like it is kind of like it is primitive by nowadays standards, but like the way that the explosion, you walked into the arcade, you could hear Defender from from 20 meters away. Like it just blew the speakers. It was really really crunchy. And
I remember as well, because a lot of people won't have ever really played like the older arcades, but they used to do this thing where sometimes with the dip switches they'd toggle them to single player. And single life, and so you put your 10 pence into Defender, and you'd be like, "Oh, Defender, I love this game. I'll put 10 pence in." And normally you'd get 3 lives, but the game would start up, and you'd go, "Okay," and you'd go to fly to the right, and sometimes on Defender you'd get caught out and you'd die instantly because you weren't acclimatized to the speed of it yet. And so you'd lose your first life within 10 seconds. You'd just go, fly right, and then it'd be game over, and you'd be like, "Wait, what? Where's my other lives?"
So I wonder, like, when did we play Defender? Because we probably didn't get into arcades until probably after we had a Spectrum, right?
No, I think it might have been
a little bit before, maybe.
Chris used to take us there, didn't he?
So like maybe when we were like maybe 9 or 10, maybe.
Well, maybe when you was 9, and I would have been about 7. Maybe 7 and maybe 10 and 8.
Because I remember like those early days when we did go to the arcades. All I remember is like you'd put your money in, and like we would just get absolutely battered. You wouldn't even last.
Brutal.
You wouldn't even last. You'd be dead in 30 seconds easily.
Yeah, and in a way, big thanks to Chris for taking us to the arcades, because he used to take us to the fair, and he used to have like loads of money compared to us at that point, and he used to give us money to play. So hats off to him for giving us some money so that we could die instantly and just show how embarrassingly bad we were compared to him at the games.
But yeah, Defender was like probably my earliest arcade game memory, like one of the games that stood out, because like really you had things like Space Invaders, and it really was the sound, right? Like because Space Invaders was kind of just as cool, really. Like it had the artwork down the side of the Space Invaders machine. Like just made you want to just made you think that it was Martians from another world kind of thing. Really good artwork. Yeah. But it's like the blips and blops of Space Invaders when Defender hit into that tracked screen demo mode, and it first starts off and like the spaceship and the world kind of comes together, doesn't it? And it kind of goes, and then it's like. Compared to Space Invaders, it just blew it out the water. Like if you had those two next to each other, as soon as that demo on Defender started, you wouldn't even be thinking of Space Invaders.
I'll tell you one game that I was just looking at other 1983 arcade games, and one that really shocked me, Dragon's Lair.
The Laserdisc one, yeah.
Yeah, that was 1983 as well.
But that
It
was
was one of the
actually, I mean, that would have been incredibly easy to do, other than the artwork, though, because all they did on that was like basically like you just had art, you just had animation on a laser disc, basically.
yeah. But I remember,
The
so
game itself would have been simple.
it must have been when I was about 7 that we first went into the arcade then, because I remember Chris taking us, and I remember him making a big deal of it. He goes like, "Oh, check out this new game! It's like a cartoon," and he was saying that it was new that year, and that was Dragon's Lair. So either 7 or it might have been when I was 8. So yeah, geez, I mean,
No, I
so
remember
yeah,
seeing Dragon's Lair and was blown away, like, and but I didn't. I don't think I ever played it. Like like
I did. I died instantly almost. It was
yeah, right.
impossible.
But it's similar to what's its name? Like the only Laserdisc game I played was Galaxy Ranger, and
Yeah, but Galaxy Ranger was a lot better, I thought, actually, as a game. Dragon's Lair's not that great as an actual game.
Galaxy Ranger though was also a simple game, right? Because like they just had movies like flying towards you, and you'd press fire, and as long as at a certain point your bullets hit a certain big block on the screen, they'd just explode, right?
Yeah.
And so and it wasn't even, they wouldn't even explode. The whole video screen would just get replaced with like a massive explosion, and so
Yeah.
the ships themselves didn't explode, but like at the time, whenever you shot something, you just get this massive mud or just a massive explosion, and you just felt like super powerful. Like, and I remember being like a little kid playing that. You just like, oh my god, this is like playing a movie. But it's like when you think back to it, like from the gameplay mechanics, there wasn't any.
No,
Not
Dragon's
really.
Lair, I
You just
kind of
had to be in the
felt.
right quarter of the screen not to get killed, and the right quarter of the screen to shoot something, and that was about it.
Yeah, see, Dragon's Lair was kind of like where Dragon's Lair kind of was let down a little bit. It was almost like you just had to learn what to do at the right times within the game,
When to
and
press the right button, like.
yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
the issue with it is it's essentially keep playing it through until you found that. So from an arcade point of view, great idea, because you'd play it the first time, you'd have no chance, you'd just die
You'd have
instantly
to
on the
keep
first
piling
person,
money in
and you'd be
until
like,
you figured it
oh,
out.
okay, at that point I've got to press this key and up. Okay, put the money back in, up and that key, and then 2 seconds later you got to press a different thing, and it just killed you again. And so it's
What do they
terrible in a
call that
way.
mechanic on games now? Like where like you don't see that many games. Some do still do it, but
They do, don't they? It's so
what's it?
dumb.
Is it called? Is it called a quick time event, or is it?
I think it is something like that, yeah, or button time event or something. And it's such a stupid mechanic. I mean, could you see yourself putting that in a game?
No,
No, right? I
no.
mean,
The only way I could think that if you were making a game, the only way I could think that, well, the only way I could think of putting something like that in a game is if I couldn't think of it. Like if I literally had no idea how I could make the game work from a playability mechanic. So I can see why companies might have started doing that, especially on like early PlayStation
early
games,
games, yeah.
because that would have been like, that would have cut development time probably probably cut it by 10, right? Because
Yeah.
but
But I
yeah, it
mean,
doesn't, not exactly compelling.
the only time I could see it actually working and being okay is if it's a cutscene for a game and you're essentially um, your character's doing the movements, and all you've got to do is do the exact same movements that you would originally do in the game along with the game. So if it was a cutscene and say, for example, it's a car driving along and it's a shoot, a first person shoot or something like that. And as the car's driving along, it essentially gets you to shoot at, things that are coming towards you as a sort of cutscene of the game, and it's just getting you involved.
Yeah, which is
if it's the same mechanics.
I mean,
But I
that's
don't get,
that's basically that's Call of Duty, right? Call of Duty's like that.
yeah, they do stuff like that, but I don't get the whole someone's turn at you with an axe, and you've got to press X at the right key to block their hand, and then you press Y to punch them in the face. But in the game, ordinarily, X is jump and Y is slide or something. And it's like, why am I pressing these random keys?
This is a reminder.
It makes no sense.
It's laundry time.
Oh, I'm getting a reminder on Alexa there. I don't know if you heard that.
I heard something. Sounded good. On
that note, we should tie up today's event, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely very good game. I would say a little bit not quite as good as Manic Miner, but at the same time, it's got some great replayability, particularly if you're playing with someone else and trying to beat each other's score. I would say that gives it the highest.
I think if you were playing it as an arcade game, or if you wanted to play a game that, if you wanted some like exhilarating action, then it's probably a better game, right? Because it's got more action.
Right.
It's more exhilarating. I just think that like Jet Set Willy, we'll get to that. I just think that Manic Miner is a very pure game because it's, there's really like I can't think of too many games that could possibly claim the platform puzzle title as being the first. That's probably one of the first platform puzzle games.
And part of the problem here is because we are indie developers ourselves, we're looking at this from the sort of development point of view. And I actually think that that's where Manic Miner beats JetPac.
Manic Miner was a better design, wasn't it?
Point of view, incredibly good design, incredibly good ideas, incredibly well executed.
Yeah, like for instance, like when we were talking about how like on that early level, how like they had like a little safety platform, and it's like it was obvious because like we guessed it right before we'd even played the next level, and it seemed obvious that this was one of these what they do modern days to sort of teach you something that's going to come later in the game. Whereas JetPac is kind of like it's a good arcade game, it's a good shooter, but it didn't have like the same kind of clever game design that
great game of its time, but Manic Miner was ahead of its time, I think, is the way to look at it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I guess I'll say goodbye to Australia.
See you later.
Yeah, see you next time.